The world 1.2 million years ago was a place sculpted by extremes. Vast landscapes of ice, snow, and jagged mountains stretched as far as the eye could see, a kingdom ruled by the harshness of winter. Among these frozen cliffs and silent valleys, humans had learned to carve out an existence that balanced delicately between survival and despair. Here, life was measured not by comfort, but by endurance. The shepherds who tended to their flocks in these frigid highlands understood the rhythm of the cold, the whisper of the wind, and the quiet lessons embedded in snow-covered landscapes. Morning arrived slowly in this ancient world. A pale sun struggled to rise over snow-laden peaks, casting long shadows across the icy slopes. The shepherds stirred, wrapped in layers of furs stitched together from the hides of animals that had themselves once grazed these harsh valleys. Every breath formed clouds in the freezing air, a reminder that warmth was fleeting and exposure could mean death. Their lives were intertwined with the flocks they guided, creatures that were both sustenance and survival tools, providing meat, milk, and skins essential for warmth and shelter. The mountains were alive in subtle ways. Snow whispered across rocks, ice cracked and groaned as the day slowly unfolded, and distant animal calls punctuated the stillness. The shepherds moved with careful precision, their steps deliberate, balancing on ridges where a single misstep could spell catastrophe. Each day demanded vigilance. Wolves and other predators prowled silently, their presence felt long before they were seen. The shepherds' knowledge of the terrain was their first line of defense, their understanding of animal behavior and weather patterns a lifeline against the unpredictable extremes of winter. Life here was dictated by rhythm and routine. Shepherds rose early, even before the sun touched the icy peaks, and checked their flocks with methodical attention. They inspected each animal, noting signs of illness, weakness, or distress, for even a single lost creature could mean a week's hardship in food and resources. They guided their flocks to sparse pastures, where the snow revealed the occasional tuft of grass or root. The cold hardened the earth, but beneath the frozen crust, life persisted. Every step the shepherds took, every decision they made, was calculated to maximize survival for themselves and for the animals they depended on. Shelters were modest, constructed from stone, snow, and the hides of animals. Fires were rare and precious, carefully stoked to provide warmth without consuming too much of the scarce fuel. Inside these huts, the shepherds huddled close, sharing stories, strategies, and sometimes a silent understanding of the fragility of life in these mountains. Food was simple and preserved: dried meat, frozen milk, and the occasional root or herb gathered from the wind-blown valleys. Meals were a moment of respite, a fleeting comfort before the harshness of the day called them back into the open, back to the vigilant care of their flocks. Snowstorms were a constant threat. The wind howled through mountain passes with a force that could drive men and animals alike to exhaustion. Visibility dropped to almost nothing, and trails became treacherous. Shepherds learned to read the signs of the sky, to sense changes in wind and temperature that hinted at an approaching storm. They moved cautiously, sometimes retreating to shelters and waiting out the fury, their survival dependent on patience and knowledge passed down through generations. Each storm was a test of endurance, a reminder that nature had dominion over life in these highlands. Despite the severity, there was beauty in these frozen landscapes. Sunlight refracted through icicles, painting the world in glittering shards of color. Tracks in the snow told stories of creatures that moved silently through the valleys, predators and prey, unseen but known through their fleeting marks. Shepherds walked among these signs with reverence, reading the history of the land under their feet, understanding that they were participants in a cycle far larger than themselves. Life in these mountains was not just survival, it was a lesson in humility and awareness, a constant negotiation with forces larger than any human could command. The relationship between shepherd and flock was sacred and symbiotic. Animals provided warmth and sustenance, and in return they relied on the shepherds for guidance and protection. Every animal had its role. Sheep and goats were led to the rare patches of winter grass, kept together in tight clusters during storms. Their instincts guided movement, but human oversight ensured that the weak did not fall behind. Shepherds spoke in quiet murmurs, gestures, and occasional claps, communicating a language honed over millennia. It was a language of survival, of trust, and of intimate knowledge of each creature under their care. Evenings brought a different kind of challenge. The temperature plummeted as the sun sank behind the mountains, and the world was cloaked in an icy stillness. Shepherds returned to their shelters, bringing the flock closer to the fire for warmth. They mended clothing and tools, sharpened stones into blades, and prepared for another day of relentless vigilance. Conversations were minimal. The quiet was a shared understanding of the demands of existence. In these moments, the shepherds reflected on the tenuous balance between life and death, aware that a single lapse of attention could unravel everything they had worked to preserve. Hunting and gathering supplemented the flocks, but these acts were dangerous in winter's grip. Tracking a deer or small game through deep snow required patience and skill. Predators were ever present, and misjudging the terrain could be fatal. The shepherds' knowledge of the land was unparalleled. They knew where animals hid, how ice formed over streams, and where snowdrifts masked hazards. Every hunt, every foraging expedition was both sustenance and a lesson in humility. Survival demanded intelligence, courage, and a keen awareness of the unforgiving environment. The harsh winters also shaped social structures. Families and small communities relied on cooperation and shared knowledge to endure. Skills were taught from generation to generation, from elder shepherds to the young, ensuring continuity of survival techniques. In these highlands, community was not a luxury, it was essential. The act of sharing firewood, food, or shelter was a silent acknowledgement that no one could endure these conditions alone. Solidarity was life itself, a bond forged in the crucible of ice and wind. In the stillness of a snowy morning, the world seemed almost frozen in time. The mountains loomed like silent guardians, the flocks moved in measured patterns across white expanses, and shepherds traversed ridges with the certainty born of countless winters. The environment was unyielding, yet life persisted. It persisted because humans had learned to adapt, to read the land, to respect its rhythms, and to embrace the patience and labor it demanded. Every day was a victory, small but vital, a testament to resilience and ingenuity. The survival of shepherds 1.2 million years ago was a story written not in monuments or artifacts, but in the quiet persistence of daily life. It was a life defined by observation, intuition, and an unyielding connection to the natural world. They were witnesses to the cycles of seasons, the migrations of animals, and the subtle shifts in climate. Each winter storm, each frozen morning, was both a challenge and a lesson, shaping human ingenuity and endurance in ways that echo into the present. The mountains demanded respect, but they also offered lessons. Shepherds learned to anticipate the movements of snow, the sounds of distant predators, and the habits of their own flocks. They developed tools and techniques to make survival possible: insulated shelters, layered clothing, and methods to preserve food in sub-zero temperatures. Every innovation was born out of necessity, every adaptation a reflection of the intimate dialogue between human beings and the cold wilderness they called home. Even in moments of isolation, there was a profound connection to the land. Shepherds felt the pulse of the mountains, the hidden life beneath the snow, and the silent presence of creatures that shared their harsh environment. Life was not easy, but it was deeply immersive, a continuous interaction with the raw forces of nature. Observation, patience, and respect became survival skills as crucial as fire or food. Every day, every decision was guided by an awareness that life in the highlands demanded both caution and courage. Over time, these highland shepherds became masters of their environment. They knew how to navigate treacherous passes, how to predict storms from distant changes in the sky, and how to sustain their flocks through the cruelest winters. Their lives were measured not in years or achievements, but in the quiet accumulation of knowledge, skill, and endurance. Each successful winter was a victory, a testament to their adaptability and unbroken connection to the land. This world, frozen yet full of life, offers a glimpse of the earliest forms of winter survival. It is a world where patience, observation, and hard work were not virtues, they were necessities. The shepherds of 1.2 million years ago teach us that survival is a constant dialogue with the environment, a delicate balance of risk and care, strength and empathy. In the quiet, snowy mornings, amidst the whispering winds and the lowing of flocks, the story of human resilience unfolds, timeless and enduring. Even as the snow fell and the mountains remained silent witnesses to human endeavor, life thrived through adaptation, ingenuity, and determination. The shepherds' lives remind us that survival is never a solitary pursuit. It is a harmony with the world around us, a careful orchestration of knowledge, instinct,